topic one here, we have Jersey Jerry took over the Penn State Iowa week from the whole social media standpoint. He's been doing content with Barstool Sports for a little bit now, and apparently he's a wrestling fan.
I think being with Kyle Bauer too. Did they do the segment together with RBY earlier in the year? Was it those two, and was there anybody else on that one?
Yeah, it was I don't know the other guys' names, but it was Kyle, KB, shout out to KB. Jersey Jerry was not in I don't think he was a part of the interview.
He just ended up wrestling him.
He did his own content with him, I think, afterwards. I could be wrong. But yeah, he wrestled RBY. But to me, it seemed kind of corny, and I was like, I'm not really into that.
I gotta admit, I didn't see it. I didn't watch it, and that's a pretty big personality to be doing wrestling content like that.
He literally wrestled RBY. He wore a singlet.
I saw the pictures from his post this past week, and I was like, that looks so funny. How'd I miss that? Anyways,
apparently he's a big wrestling fan, which is really dope. And he tweeted that first he started off by saying he wanted to see RBY and Spencer Lee wrestle. That was the original tweet. And then Willie kind of chimed in and is like, hey, he said, the casuals are showing up, which earned Willie some criticism. And I was telling you this earlier, at first I felt like Willie was kind of annoyed at the take by him. And I think Willie sometimes can get mad if people step on his toes when it comes to being the king of wrestling podcasting or media or whatever, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And then somebody with a bigger platform like Jersey comes in, Willie's trying to let him know what time it is. Willie kind of gets dunked on for it, and it's kind of like, hey, don't be a gatekeeper of wrestling. This isn't the move. There were several tweets on the timeline that took it that way.
Yeah.
And Willie, playing chess like he always does, is kind of like, well, I didn't mean it that way. What I meant, I was just kind of busting his balls a little bit.
I knew this would stir it a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was like, I'm just trying to bust Jerry's balls. I like his content and things. So he kind of backed off from being Mr. This is my king. Or I'm the king. Right. This is my castle. Don't try to come over here. And then I saw that they ended up kind of talking to each other a little bit at the actual duel meet. Willie posted a video of him at the duel meet. Kind of went up to Jerry. They had it looks like it was
that was a pretty cool video though, of on the sidelines, and then Jerry was just casually sitting there and was like, "Hey, fuck you."
Did you see the tweet?
Yeah, which one?
The one that you're moving to PA and changing the name to PA Paulie. Hey, are you going to Tulsa with me?
I'm going to Tulsa with Willie.
Let's go, baby.
And then David Taylor walks by.
What's up, buddy? Hey, Kendra.
Yeah. He's like, hey, how's it going? That was actually really cool.
I'll say this about, not to side tangent into Penn State versus Iowa or Bryce Jordan Center and Carver Hawkeye, but Carver Hawkeye, from theatrical standpoint, it kind of always feels the same to me, whether it's Penn State or Iowa State or any of the bigger dual meets that are at Carver, feels the same. We're at Friday night when it was Iowa and Penn State there. That thing felt like it was the NCAA finals, at least from the TV perspective. The Big Ten Network had, I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were walking out, first of all, at Penn State, they walk through the crowd, there's floor seats, which they used to do that at Iowa versus Iowa State.
Yeah.
They would put the mat in the middle, raised on an elevated stage, and then there'd be floor seats like you would see at NCAA finals.
Right.
Carver, they don't do that. Carver, there's just a mat on there, and then I think they might do a small selection of don't they do a small VIP type seating or something?
Yeah, I think just on one end. I'm not sure if it's both ends they use, but it's not every side is taken up, I know. And the mat is just always straight on the floor. It's never elevated, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, which is not that it's a big deal. I just feel
I get what you mean by that. It always looks the same, though. But, that's kind of why it's, famous, too. But you're right. In terms of production, though, it does always look the same.
When it was at Penn State, it kind of felt more like it was a bigger deal. Yeah. And then you have Jersey Jerry kind of pumping this thing up. Mm-hmm. Micah Parsons is there, which, by the way, Big Ten Network squeezed every ounce of juice out of that lemon.
He thought he was going just to watch, and they're like, no, man, you got to get on camera for a bit.
He was on camera. I'm sure they put him on the Jumbotron while I was on there. He did the interview in the middle.
In the intermission, the interview with Shane and Gibbons, and they're underhooking him.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Yeah. But to me, it just felt like so much bigger an event being at the Bryce Jordan Center.
Yeah.
To Carver. Carver, it's almost like Wrigley in a way where it's more of a sight to see. It's historical. Mm-hmm. The crowd is probably better. So before the Hawkeyes give me the comments, the crowd is actually better to me at Carver Hawkeye than at least it appeared on TV at Bryce Jordan Center.
Yeah.
But
did you think it was quiet?
I think that they I think that they muffled it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there was one point where I think it might have been like a technical error from the TV stream where it was like really loud for a second, and it was something kind of minor where that part of the dual meet wouldn't have been like the loudest moment of the night, but it got really loud. So I think that they muffled the mic'd up crowd, or maybe the crowd wasn't mic'd up. But I think it was a little bit quieter in person, because a lot of the in-person videos seem nuts. Like the video that Willie posted of Jersey Jerry, or the video that Willie posted with RBY, like that, those seem like chaos moments.
Right.
But I think that Big Ten Network might have like muffled it a little bit so you could hear the sound.
I didn't think anything watching it, and then after the fact, I saw people saying like, "Oh, it sounded like people were sitting on their hands all night," or like it was quiet. Yeah. But then at the same time, I know that match probably that had plenty of big moments where it had to have been just nuts in there. So I just kind of assumed it was probably like, just the audience is quieter on television or something like that. I didn't know what to think when I saw people complaining after.
I think that was more fellers complaining, but not
even specifically him, but
yeah, I think it was more so just. I think it was probably more muffled there, because like that many people there, like they're gonna be going nuts.
Yeah,
and
it was a funny tweet nonetheless.
Yeah. So, anyways, Jersey Jerry, he's there. Him and Willie have their back and forth, which is great. Willie definitely knows how to get people to hate him or love him, and then Jersey Jerry obviously is a huge personality over at a bigger entity than probably the sport of wrestling, which is Barstool Sports. So you have this guy who wants to help promote wrestling, and the guy I think is admittedly a casual wrestling fan, and so
I don't think he cares.
No, but I think that's the people that we want to appeal to. Right, we want to appeal to people who are like on the fence. That
those people have the potential to actually become a fan, maybe if they're exposed right.
Right. And so I know from doing wrestling media and stuff that if you come into the sport and you are maybe not as accoladed, or you are not as maybe educated about technical things within wrestling, and we all know that wrestling is a very technical sport, you are more likely to get pushback when you give some sort of take on actual wrestling, which makes it hilarious when you couple it with the beef with him and Willie over the whole RBY Lee thing, because it was like, that was already kind of a rookie take, saying like they should wrestle, because any hardcore fan or any fan that pays attention to the level that we might pay attention to, or the level that Willie or anybody else in wrestling media might pay attention to, knows the RBY Lee thing is such a joke. Like, that's such a casual fan thing to say. I believe that it's fun to talk about. Like, we talked about it on the show, and like it should be something to talk about, something that most people have thought about.
It's a really good hypothetical, for sure.
It's a really good hypothetical. So you couple that take with the take of him at the end, where he, first of all, I thought it was cool that he went in the room. Like, he went in the room at Penn State, which they're usually, I've never tried, but I've heard they're like not, they don't let
Jersey Jerry?
Yeah, he went in the room. He's posting pictures with RBY. Like, clearly they gave him the keys to the place. Like, Penn State doesn't do that a lot. They did it for him, obviously. And then at the end of the dual meet, so he's like all Penn Stated up, which I think he probably was at the first place, because he had the whole RBY connection and they're friends. I don't even know, like, I don't think Jersey Jerry ever wrestled. I would love to know how he got into like following it.
Just like where his appreciation comes from.
Right. Obviously he's from Jersey. Like, it's not crazy to think that he's like a big wrestling fan or whatever, right? Like, we know how Micah Parsons was a good wrestler growing up. There's picture with him and Spencer Lee. Like, we know that Micah Parsons was good at wrestling. So we know where that comes from. But the whole Jersey Jerry thing was kind of a shock, back when he did that interview with RBY. But now he does this and kind of takes over the whole week by storm. And then at the end of the duel, he posts this video, which we'll show you guys right now.
All right, Jersey Jerry here. This is a sad day. It's a bad day.
No, this is him, his pants. This is the wrong video. Yeah, that was a video of Jerry. So in case you don't know who Jersey Jerry is, he crapped his pants one time on like the subway and filmed the whole experience of when he got home and showed the evidence. So.
I swear I had it loaded earlier, and then I must have accidentally refreshed it to look at how many followers he had and was not ready.
Imagine we play that one. All right, you found it? It's labeled Jersey Brands.
I'm winning a duel.
There we go.
All
right, Jersey Jerry here. 3.5 hour drive back to New Jersey. Congrats to Penn State on winning a duel tonight. I loved every minute of it. It It was a show, that's for sure. Got my attention. I was standing up the whole time. Something electric, something special. One thing I gotta say though is this. I seen a lot of heart from Penn State. A lot of heart in the third. A lot of heart on top, riding. One thing I didn't see, I seen a lot of guys' souls get taken in the third. I seen a lot of guys from Iowa break in the third. I mean, listen, I'm a big Terry Brands, Tom Brands type of guy. I really am. I watched the documentary and everything. Yes, Jersey Jerry, new to wrestling last couple of years, but I'll tell you this: that team looks that team looks like it was coached by Jerry Brands tonight. I've seen a lot of guys collapse late. Penn State, great roster. I'll see you guys in the funny papers.
That's pretty good. Honestly, for him admitting like he doesn't know a whole lot or says he's just got into it the past few years, he's not completely wrong with some of his takes. I disagree with the fading late in the third take a little bit. Him saying Penn State's riding hard. Not that it takes a genius to point out those kind of things.
That's a pretty good observation.
But a lot of matches came down to Penn State, and that was like a big topic of discussion after the fact was the riding situation. Is Penn State stalling on top, like sitting on the ankle? They're not really working to turn. People saying that you should only get a riding time point if you turn the guy while you're riding or whatever. He's making takes that I think he could be taken seriously within the sport if he got into wrestling media. And another thing is he clearly pays attention because he watched the whole documentary. So at first, when I'm watching this video, I was like, oh no, Jersey Jerry doesn't understand that one, wrestling fans can be completely ruthless when you're an outsider. So he comes in right off the bat and admits that he's a general casual fan. So I'm like, oh no. Then two, he goes after the Iowa fan base, which is the number one fan base when it comes to like blindly being behind your team and your guys. And not only does he go after them, he goes after the coaching, which is Tom and Terry Brands, which is like the number one person or persons that you should not go after. It's Tom and Terry. Kind of guns a-blazing, which I like, but then he covers his bases a little bit and he says, I'm a fan of Tom and Terry and all that, right? And then at the end when he says it's Jerry Brands, like kind of self-deprecates himself a little bit. So I really hope he stays doing wrestling content because I think he can ruffle a lot of feathers, and he's someone who could take it because he's used to having that big audience where like a lot of people don't like Barstool Sports, so he's used to getting hate a little bit.
Right, and Barstool's had to have heard that at some point. That's had to have made it to like everybody's ears there is that they should cover more wrestling by this point probably. And so like I feel like he knew a good amount what he was talking about for someone who just started watching this, so he could definitely go and be a way bigger personality for it on Barstool if he wanted to, like actually be a fan.
The thing with Jerry that might be difficult is he's bigger in other aspects, so he can do other content. Like he can get interviews with NFL people, and like he's got an interview I think with like Tracy Morgan on this podcast that he talks about sobriety and whatnot. He's not going to get those kind of numbers with wrestling, at least just doing like
that's the hard part,
content. Yeah. But maybe he would. I don't know. I hope that he does. I hope that he does.
If he did want to do content with like any name in wrestling, they would probably do it with him because he's like a pretty big name just overall. So I think anybody would be excited to do it with him if he decided to. But yeah, you're right. It might not get enough eyes for someone like him.
Right. No, I think he can get an interview with anybody. Like he's getting to the Penn State room, but I just don't know if he's gonna like be willing. Does he love wrestling enough?
If
like
it's good enough.
We love wrestling enough that if we do an episode and it doesn't do very well, like it doesn't really matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
We have like the YouTube community, the Patreon community, the Twitter, the Facebook, Instagram, all that. Discord's my favorite community because it's nonstop.